Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps. Today we are considering the country of Albania, a country where religion was officially banned. No other country, not even the former Soviet Union, nor China, had a more repressive regime against religion. Let's watch now a small documentary showing how religion was effectively eradicated from the country.
Enver Hoxa prej shtatën, edhe hero për situatën. Kjo është pata që rrinte koka, gjithë armiqve do që ka bota. Enver Hoxa hetun gjatë jeta, sa të monde dhe sa të shkrepa, zoni shite solat janë rrite.
Thus, so many suffered in our village. They were tortured for their faith, for the beliefs taught to them by religion, for the fact that they remained faithful to their God. This communism was not real communism, but an empty promise. We experienced something different. Bolshevism, or the absence of faith, when a brother no longer knows his sister, and the sister no longer knows the brother. We survived only thanks to our faith in God.
This was the time of Radio Vatican. We turned the volume all the way down and listened. Nearly everybody listened to Radio Vatican. All the faithful in the village, only for a quarter of an hour since the programme never lasted more than 15 minutes. But we were happy with those 15 minutes because they reminded us of our religion and faith during the communist years. I was baptised at the age of 6 by Father Leon at home in complete secrecy because we were very frightened of communism. When grandfather became ill and lay on his deathbed, you went somewhere and said, "Loro, will you come and hear this man's last confession? Will you give him his last rites?" Grandmother said, "Don't go," because we were being watched, because the communists would catch us.
Albania's particularity as a system, as an example of a communist state, as a dictatorship, was that it remained quite isolated. As the last wagon of communism's final train, it remained on the most remote track since neither Western nor Eastern Europe wanted to know anything about Albania. Enver Hoxa was a perverted individual who looked no further than his own interests. His worst offence against Albania was the complete isolation he imposed. Initially, he sided with Yugoslavia to protect his interests. When this was threatened, he broke with the Yugoslavs and got into bed with the Soviets, with Stalin. He forged his dictatorship according to Stalin's instructions. Then his position became endangered again because of events in Budapest and Warsaw. He started to be afraid. When Khrushchev edged more towards the west, Hoxha's position was threatened even more. He severed his alliance with Russia and sided with China. This plunged Albania even deeper into isolation, turning the country into a zoo of clans and deadly borders. So we were neither a member of the Warsaw Pact nor of NATO. We were neither the West nor the East. And so Albania hovered in the void between East and West until 1990. Although nobody was allowed to go abroad, he fed the outside world with propaganda that Albania was heaven on earth. Fueled by an all-encompassing paranoia, Hoxha opposed both American imperialism and Soviet revisionism. He was against Warsaw and against everybody else. He fostered the mad delusion that the world envied Albania and was fighting against it. This country was utterly devoid of an opposition movement. This was a country that was dominated by one doctrine, by one elite, by one man. One could either support this or not live at all, except in prison. The beaches, instead of being filled with sun lovers, were strewn with bunkers. There are some 750,000 bunkers all over Albania, and the ones that are above ground and viewable today constitute merely 1/3 of the tunnels and bunkers that riddle this country under the surface. At the time, a bunker cost 280,000 leki, the same as a 2-room apartment. Thus, instead of these 700,000 to 800,000 bunkers, we could have built 700,000 to 800,000 apartments. It means that in the country of 3 million residents, each family could have 2 apartments. Hoxha was loved. It is not true that the nation perceived him as a torturer. Today, he is considered to be just that, somebody who committed countless crimes against his own nation. Hoxha's funeral in 1985 resembled Stalin's funeral. The pattern was very much the same. People stood in endless lines in front of the main building in the central square of Skanderbeg. Everybody cried. They could not see their future. The world had collapsed.
The regime eventually fell in 1991, following the disintegration of the satellite states of the former USSR. Together with the arrival of freedom in 91, Albania's borders were opened for the first time to foreigners, including chaplains and missionaries. They saw a nation utterly devastated and ruined, in which poverty seemed to know no limits.
I remember the day, March the 8th, 1991, when I first came to Albania and saw a ruined church. The priests, who had remained in families, tried to gather people in the remnants of the churches. And today, after 10 years, many great things have been accomplished, many miracles. In the last 10 years, the church has matured in every respect. First and foremost, we have managed to send missionaries to every corner of the country.
When I arrived to Albania in 1993, there was absolutely nothing here. We saw in Scutari empty shops, which made a terrible impression on us. There were merchants on the streets selling 2 or 3 things on a wooden fruit box: a lighter, a box of cigarettes, a box of matches. There was nothing besides this. I think that the church also needs help. Just as there is no work or money for the people, there is also none for the church. Usually the church is supported by its parishioners, and if the people have nothing, then they cannot support the church. The poverty here runs so deep that it is difficult to contend with. The small help that we bring is not a real help for these people. It is one-time support. But if we stop even this help, all their problems will start over again. This truly is the deepest poverty.
The secret sharing of faith bore fruit in 1990, and the communist regime was about to be overthrown. The first Holy Mass was held at Shkodër Cemetery in an atmosphere of continuing fear that any minute the Sigurimi will appear and arrest all the participants.
At first, when the churches were reopened, everybody was afraid that the police would come, that communism would return to check on who was involved with religion. We continued to pray in great secrecy. We were very frightened. We whispered our prayers that nobody would hear us, not even from the next room. Very quiet. In November 1992, the first Mass was held in our village, at the cemetery. We tried to make this Mass as beautiful as possible. This was a great joy which is impossible to describe. Huge crowds attended. We remembered all the old prayers, because at the time we didn't have the songs we have now. We only had the old prayers our parents had taught us. This was our beginning, our greatest joy.
A phenomenon happened at that time. The Catholics, Muslims and Orthodox gathered together against the dictatorship, and the churches were brimming with people. Why? Because during the dictatorship we used to celebrate our religious holidays covertly.
Mother Teresa's visit to Albania was a symbol of impending freedom.
She had wanted to come before the churches were reopened, but communism would not allow it. Mother Teresa, the purest mother, you always wanted to come here, but this cursed regime blocked your path to us. We burn with love for Jesus the Lord. Look into our clean hearts and take these flowers in your hand. Joyfully we say to you today, welcome back, daughter.
We have built many church buildings to cover the minimal needs of the people, that they can gather to practice their faith. The greatest emergency and need of the church today is the training of local staff, starting with the youth and lay people to teach the catechism and to educate the young to form the next generation of Christians receiving the sacraments. I don't know when we will achieve this goal, but for the moment, we seek to meet the needs of the believers step by step, village after village. Because priests were so long absent from village life, people have learned to live their religion without the church. We must teach people that religion is also a way of life and the eternal communication with God through the sacraments. Obviously, we have not yet achieved this goal. Our challenge is to train staff that is capable of living together with the believers, that is prepared to make sacrifices for them. The church in Albania depends on the support of its sister churches. We have to thank all those who have supported us. Without their help, we would not have been able to return to and achieve as much as we have in Albania. The priests, missionaries, bishops, religious people who have come to this country have done so armed with goodwill, with empty hands, and with the great love we all share for the church. Nevertheless, our success at rebuilding the Albanian church depends very much on our sister churches. We cannot go on alone. Aid to the Church in Need is one of the main supporters of the church in Albania. Aid to the Church in Need has supported us for years when there was nothing, and we had to start from the beginning. Offices, office equipment, the contemplative convent in Nenshad, the construction of pastoral centres and so on. Without the help of Aid to the Church in Need and the other organisations, we would be very, very helpless in our work.
Welcome back. We're here in Rome with Dr. Maria Doro, a member of the St. Egidio Community who has, for 10 years, been helping in Albania as a medical doctor. Dr. Maria Doro, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you to you.
What struck you the most when you first went there to Albania? What was it that touched you most personally?
What touched me was the difference of this country compared to Italy, because it's very near to Italy. Only 60 kilometers separe the port of Brindisi with the port of Valona in Albania, but it was a complete different countries. It was like to be 100 years ago. Very few cars in the street, very bad condition of the streets, continuous shortages of electric lights. The life of the people still linked to a very old agricultural system, many shepherds. But also what touched me was the welcome of the people. In fact, the Albanians are very welcoming towards foreign. The hospitality is a very strong value. Even if they have difficult situation, they share what they have with their guests.
If I have read correctly, an electric fence that went around the entire country.
There was a kind of a fence in some parts of the border. For example, at the border with Yugoslavia, surrounding the lake of Shkodër. But till now, at the border of the country, there are no trees. They were all cut in order to prevent people to escape from the country. To leave the country was severely forbidden, and people who tried to do it were executed and their family persecuted. I met a lot of people who could not continue the study because a distant cousin had tried to escape. Even the movement inside the country were not allowed, so people could not live the difficult conditions of the life in the mountains to come to town, because living in town was a kind of privilege accorded to the faithful to the regime. It was also a cultural isolation. People could not hear the news from other countries. They could not listen to music, to foreign music. A consequence of this is that people ignore what happened in the world in the last 40 years. Their information about that period are rather distorted, I would say.
The attack was terrible. Persecution was hard. How was this particularly, what examples can you give us of how this attack on the church occurred?
First of all, this attack was conducted with the killing of about 60 priests and many nuns, and the arrest of about the totality of priests living at that moment in Albania. The suppression of religious orders, the closing of the Catholic schools. For example, I've met the Stigmatine sisters in Shkodër. Their convent were closed. They were about 90 in the country. They went back home. They continued to live at home like sisters. People brought them children to be baptized in secret, and some of them were only candidates, and they waited and could wear the religious habit only in 91, when maybe they were 70.
You are a medical doctor. You've been working in Albania since 1995, and you are going as a volunteer. That is, you go on your holidays to Albania, you give 15 days. In fact, you're going to be leaving soon, if I understand correctly.
In July, yes.
What challenges do you see, particularly in the medical profession? You are working with children. What challenges do you see to the structure of the society, particularly in medicine?
Yes, the community of Sant'Egidio helped Albania, above all in the sectors of health and school. The health sector has a lot of lacking, like all the public sectors in Albania. So we help with the donation of medicine, of sanitary equipment, which was completely lacking in many hospitals. In particular, in the northern part of the country, which is the poorest part of the country, we supported 14 pediatric clinics, especially to fight against child malnutrition. And since 1991 to now, the situation has improved, of course. The economy in Albania is growing up rapidly, but there are still many needs in the health sector. The infrastructure are lacking, and people are suffering continuing the everyday shortages of electricity, for example, and this is heavy for the people.
There seems to be somehow a silence about the country in the international. Do you feel this as well, and why?
Well, for 40 years it was not possible to know anything about Albania. Now the situation surely is different. From a general point of view, I would say that Albanians are very interested in knowing other countries, other languages, but generally Europe and maybe also the United States don't return this interest equally. In Italy, for example, I think many Italians have a kind of misknowledge of Albanians. They see the Albanian like the first people they met in '91, very poor Albanians escaping from the country. Now the situation is different. I think that a good contribution for the knowledge of the country can be given by the emigrants, the Albanian emigrants that are in many countries of the world, and also by the tourism that is growing little by little in Albania. In fact, Albania is also a beautiful country. There are many interesting sites to visit.
How does the church work in this reconstruction effort?
The church has done a very important work in Albania. It worked for the reconstruction of the society, both in the human promotion, both in the communication of the gospel. This happened at the beginning, especially with the help of the Universal Church. I mean, many missionaries, priests, nuns went in Albania from many countries, from Italy, Kosovo, Croatia, India, Philippines, Germany, and they helped to rebuild the church. They helped to rebuild the churches, but also schools, clinics. At the beginning, the church was forced to be a substitute of the state because the state was lacking. But I think that the church is a very important point of reference, not only for people who have a clear identity of Catholics, but also for the whole population, also for people who have not a clear religious identity, because the church witnesses the Christian love, free of charge love, a compassionate love that is rather uncommon in that society.
Is it a highly trusted, respected institution, the church, because it lived with the people through this time of suffering? Can one say that the Albanians trust the church, perhaps more than the state?
Yes, it's very trusted, it's respected also from the state and also from the other religions. Also because the Catholic Church helped all Albanians without distinction of religion. It helped the Catholics but also the Muslims, and this is recognized by all the population.
How is the relationship between the Muslims and the Catholics in Albania? It seems to be quite harmonious.
Yes, quite now it has been harmonious. They always lived together. People used to visit, Catholic used to visit the Muslim for their feast and
vice versa.
Now there are some signs of a sense of hostility that is growing, especially because the difficult international situations
is reflected
also in Albanian society. But generally the relations are quite good. There are a lot of mixed marriages and so on.
Dr. Anna Maria Doro, thank you for being with us, and thank you for all the good work that you're doing in Albania, and good luck with your upcoming trips.
Thank you to you.
And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd like to know more information about the situation of Catholics in Albania, please consider the information posted at the end of this program, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Where God Weeps.